they see that landscape and then they go out and look at the actual landscape that the painter paints and say that landscape got there by chance. Well, if the painting of the landscape needed an artist, how much more does the actual landscape need? And that artist
Hey,
must be
Brother
God.
Jed, if God is such a great designer, then why is it that the hole we breathe out of and the hole we eat in are the same hole?
So that's efficiency.
No, it's not. We choke really easily if that's the system.
That's quite efficient. And we also,
Why are there birth defects if God is such
but
a
you can
great
also,
designer?
you know,
Why are people born with Down syndrome?
we do most of our breathing out of our nostrils, and except for loud mouths like myself. Uh, the Now, why are there birth defects?
Yeah.
Obviously, something has gone
It
wrong.
must be sin, right?
Yeah, something's gone wrong. That goes back to the
It's not
garden.
genetics, it's sin.
That goes back. Well, the sin can have adverse effect on your body. I mean, any doctor will tell you that. You know, you drink too much, destroy your liver.
That's not sin, that's just
And,
chemicals.
you smoke too much, that's going to ruin your lungs.
That has nothing to do with morals. That's chemicals.
It's immoral to drink. That's why.
No, 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 no,
It's
no.
unhealthy.
Those are chemicals.
It's
That has
unhealthy.
nothing to do with morals.
It's unhealthy. It's unhealthy.
Yeah, didn't Jesus tell us all to drink?
I'm talking about
He
drinking.
turned his blood into wine. How much did that guy drink?
Yeah, it's talking about getting drunk. Not taking the social drink. We don't mean that.
So it's another gray area, is it?
Back to Morocco. No, the sin is getting drunk.
But drinking
You
isn't.
can drink without getting drunk.
You can drink, but you can't get drunk, and it's all right. Okay, so what
I'll
else?
admit there might be sort of.
What happened after you saw God's figurative hand in the sky?
Well, I got to thinking, instead of going to India, studying under a guru and becoming Hindu, maybe I ought to go back home and study my own religion. Because although I now was convinced there was a God, who is this God? Who is this creator? Is it the Allah of the Quran? Is it the Jehovah of the Hebrew Scriptures? Is it the Jesus of the New Testament? Or are there many gods, or what? Well, it may seem reasonable to me before I go to India and study Hinduism, I ought to study my own cultural and religious heritage. I've been raised a Christian.
Reasonable.
So went back, started going to church, really listening for a change, and I discovered most of these ministers at least could give a good reason for what they believe. I continued reading the Bible. It made sense to me. I had to admit, if everyone would live by the golden rule that Jesus taught, we would have a better world. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You don't want to make lying to you, don't you lie. You don't want to make stealing from you, don't you steal. You don't want to make cheating you, so don't you cheat. Well, that makes sense.
What about masochists?
But see, most people live selfishly. And
Should they do unto others?
they
as
will. Well, we're to love our neighbor as ourselves.
But masochists like hurting themselves, which is why they're masochists. So should they do unto others?
Call that,
Or are they exempt from the rule?
that's unreasonable. We're designed to be governed by reason. And it's human nature to want to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. We all know that. You think someone
So they're
wants
just
to
lying.
maximize pain.
They're just pretend
You
masochists.
want to maximize pain. Now, sometimes pain is good. If you're working out, no pain, no gain. But you
You ever pump iron?
allow temporary pain to your body to ultimately strengthen it. So sometimes pain can be good. You might seek it in that sense, but ultimately to make yourself stronger.
Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Therefore,
So what convinced you to become a preacher?
You keep jumping ahead of the story.
Okay, no, go ahead. No, I just want you to talk. I'm sorry.
And so I'm considering all these things, and in August of 1972, I'm riding my bicycle to a parking lot of a shopping center, and I hear my name called out. It's an old high school classmate who had become an Assembly of God minister. And we used to party together in high school. I was pretty startled that he ended up a minister, or even a Christian for that matter. And I thought something has happened in his life for the good. I was impressed with the change in his life. And we went across the street to the Burger King restaurant. And he opened up the Bible and began to preach to me. Show me verses like, if you will confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus, believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you'll be saved. He showed me how Jesus wanted to become my friend. But in order to be his friend, I had to obey him.
That doesn't sound like much of a friendship.
It is. It's loving obedience.
Sounds like a job.
And as God, well, jobs are good. I appreciate
Why don't you get one?
employers I've had. And if you want to be successful in your job and get raises and advancement, you better obey your employer. He's
Not your
giving
friend.
you the job. You should show him respect and not criticize him. And you can't work for him and enjoy it. Work for somebody else or start your own business. So I got saved that night, and
Start my
the
own
witness was that I got saved is, for the first amount of time in my memory, I had a clear conscience. Because when I saw how Jesus died for me, the first time it made me ashamed of my sinful ways. I used to brag on my sexual exploits and party life, but when I saw how Jesus bore my sin, that gave me a sense of shame. And I began to recognize how my sin had hurt so many people, like my parents, girls I'd ruined, and so on, relationships that left people hurting. But I was so selfish I didn't care. But now I was determined no longer to live selfishly, and I changed my ways. Now, for the first time I preached, I had been saved less than a year, and I was at the altars of this little country church I was going to. It just only had about 30 people in their congregation. I was praying, and God spoke to me. He said, I'm going to make a way for you to preach to 5,000 people.
He said all of that.
Did he actually speak to you, or did you
No,
just
I
like...
don't mean audibly.
Oh.
He figuratively spoke to you.
Well, not figuratively.
Did you see
God
it traced in letters in the sky?
put the thought in my mind. See, God speaks to us through our mind, through our conscience. The voice of reason is the voice of God. The voice of conscience is the voice of God.
That seems really interesting.
And so God said, I'm going to make a way for you to preach to 5,000 people. And I said, but Lord, I've never preached before. I've witnessed one-on-one, but I never preached. And God said, if you can tell one person about me, you can preach. Just say the same thing you would say to that one person, only say it louder so everyone can hear you. And I thought, well, that makes sense. That must be God.
So you were having a conversation with God.
In my mind.
Okay.
Let's just keep that clear. The conversation was in your mind, was not audible.
Not audible. I wasn't vocalizing this with my vocal cords.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it was real, and that made sense. I thought that has to be God. Well, I remember that there was a rock and roll concert going on down by the Wabash River in Terre Haute, Indiana, my hometown. And this is 1973. This is just a few years after Woodstock. And everybody's trying to still relive Woodstock. And all over the country, there'd be concerts going on. They're going all weekend, night and day, one band after another. Now, this was an annual concert they had in my hometown. I'd been there the year before. Hair flowing over my shoulders, a big bushy beard, nothing on but a pair of cut-off Levi's,
Nice.
a wine bottle in one hand, a joint of marijuana in the other.
Nice.
Doing some sort of lewd dance with a bunch of hippies.
That's awesome. What is your definition of a hippie?
Hippie. That term has been traced to the San Francisco Chronicle in the mid-60s. It comes from the term hipster. Or in the 50s, they called people who were sort of anti-establishment, bohemian was another word. Jack Kerouac on the road, are you familiar with that at all? Well, they were called